Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I wanted to ask you some questions. What is the current complement and what is the composition between the various functions? Maybe you can help identify that.
Would that be the number there? Yes. Our current complement is 4,282 right now, and I don't know how many troopers do we have on the road.
We'd have to provide a breakdown. There are a lot of different.
There's so many different jobs that we have in the state police. It'd be difficult for me. The majority of them are troopers on the road. That's the majority of what we do, and that is our #1 priority. But we have, we have an awful lot of different jobs, and we have people doing all different kinds of things.
Okay. Now, how many of those officers are LCE officers?
There are about 140 LCE officers and another 35 that are supervisors.
Of those 100, of the work that's done by the LCE, and you may or may not be able to identify it today, but can you tell us the types of cases that the LCE officers are investigating? You know, are they a division between illegal minors, serving of illegal minors? How many cases were investigated with regard to illegal drug activity at nuisance bars? And then how many are what I would consider more moderate issues, such as complaints by neighbors, sound from amplification and the like? Do you have those kind of figures?
We can certainly get those figures for you as far as a percentage breakdown, but I can tell you that they are involved in a wide range of investigations, everything from nuisance bars, underage drinking complaints, on up through gambling investigations and anything in between.
Okay. Have the state police considered whether it would be appropriate, in order to maximize their manpower, that they require the municipalities to enforce things like what are typical neighbor disputes, such as noise from operations, licensed activities, and remove itself from the responsibility of dealing with those issues? And how would you feel about that?
There are actually some concerns with that. First of all, most of the violations are administrative violations that the municipal police are not trained for, so it would require a significant amount of additional training of those agencies. Secondly, because some of those violations lead us to look further and to take other enforcement action, unless the municipal departments were prepared to take on the whole range of liquor enforcement, it's problematic to just kind of nibble off at the edges, if you will, and take pieces of it away. But even to have that function transferred over to the municipalities is a concern, in that many of the investigations involve undercover operations. Very difficult for many of the municipalities that have small departments of just a few people to conduct those kinds of investigations within their respective municipalities. Okay,
well, I would ask that if you can give to the chairman something particularly on the LCE operations, as again, my concern is that we're putting our emphasis in the right spots, or what I believe to be the right spots, and that is illegal activities under the Crimes Code, as opposed to something that I believe particular municipalities should enforce, and that would be noise ordinances and the like. Does the state police have a position? Currently, it's my understanding under law, neither the state police nor any municipality is allowed to recover for transportation costs when law enforcement transports defendants from one location to another, such as a court appearance. It's my understanding we cannot recover that cost through the clerk of courts, and that therefore the taxpayers are paying for that. Was the state police aware of that, and do you have a position as to whether that should be immediately changed? Because I can see how much we're all struggling to pay costs.
I'm not aware of exactly. I know we don't recover the costs. I don't know that we've ever tried to recover the costs, or that we could, but I'd have to look into that and get back to you.
Yeah, if you would. It's my understanding that there's a court case that says because of the language didn't include certain items of recovery, that we're not allowed to recover, and I think it may even include, unless we fix that at one point in time, DNA evidence, but I know the transportation costs are not recoverable, and that just seems improper to me. That if, in fact, you're convicted and that's a cost of prosecution, that should be cleared up. With respect to the lab issue, has the state police contacted any county labs, those counties that do have labs that can perform DNA, to find out whether they could help you with some of the backlog?
Well, see, here's the issue with that. We do the testing for the DNA. If we send it somewhere else, we'd have to test it, send it to them, they'd test it, then when it comes back, we have to retest it. So it doesn't really aid us. Plus, we have by far the biggest database. So sending it to a county doesn't really help us, because we're still going to need to run that test against our database. So we have not looked into that, although some of the once again, as with the county laboratories, if you have a suspect you want to check it against, you might get a much quicker response than going to a county lab who you can say, check it against John Doe, than sending it to ours and say, we don't know who it is, check it against everybody, because we have everybody. Or close to.
And I agree, it would only be a temporary solution at best, and it's certainly riddled with problems, and I share my colleagues' concerns on this issue. It's probably, in my opinion, at this point, a core function that's done by any investigatory body, and whatever you need in that regard, we're probably just going to have to do. You mentioned earlier that there was a cadet class that had been appropriated, and then it didn't come to be. What happens when a cadet class doesn't come to fruition and it's part of the budget line items? What happens to that money or funding?
Budgetary reserve. Well, that money was placed into budgetary reserve. Okay. And so that was removed from our budget, and what's going to happen to that has yet to be determined.
Okay, so as I understand, it is in a reserve, but not yet reallocated for that purpose.
That's correct.
Okay, well, it seems like that would be appropriate, that if there's money in reserve, that's the first place we ought to go to pay for a cadet class. Do you know how much is in reserve?
$6 million. $6 to $7 million.
And where is that? Where would one find that reserve? Is it, it's obviously not in this room, but where would one find it?
I don't have it. It's in the budgetary, wherever they keep the government money. It's all stuff. I don't know.
Okay. Well, thank you for your testimony.
You bet.